June 11, 1993. The day that the world was introduced to the majesty and spectacle and what many argue as the greatest dinosaur movie of all time, and one of the best movies of all time. Steven Spielberg gave us the movie of the same name from Michael Crichton's 1990 novel of a suspenseful adventure thrill ride that is still being felt by audiences today.
Jurassic Park broke so much ground for a mid-90s movie with its compelling physical animatronic work from the legendary Stan Winston Studios to the amazing, groundbreaking visual effects from ILM that gave us lifelike looking dinosaurs that still hold up incredibly well when viewing the movie today.
Whether it was seeing the magical introduction of the Brachiosaurus at the start of the movie, to the very moment when the hairs stood up on the back of our neck when the T-Rex escaped its paddock. I was wowed 25 years ago when I saw this movie for the very first time, and I have the same admiration and wonder for it quarter of a century later.
Come and join me as I revisit one of the greatest cinematic spectacles of all time as I go back to the park. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jurassic Park.
One has to keep in mind when looking back at this, Spielberg made this movie so that everyone could enjoy it. Sure, it may be a PG movie, but there are enough moments to scare you out of your wits without it stepping out of its paddock of boundaries.
However, had the movie gone for the tone that the original book had gone with, then to quote Clayton Fioriti, the book has always been a different beast. It never shies away from animal violence, from how brutal the book goes in detail to the Dilophosaurus killing Dennis Nedry, or to the juvenile T-Rex ripping the flesh from Ed Regis. And let's not even discuss the death of the infant baby by the Procompsognathus. Clayton was right, they are deceptively cute.
So, the approach with the result being a more family-friendly tone was the right way to go. In my opinion, at least.
The screenplay that Michael Crichton developed with David Koepp, who also wrote the script for 2002 Spider-Man, was just amazing. See what I did there? Here, you're able to see the vision of one man's dream of being able to showcase resurrected animals from extinction, to marvel at the beauty and spectre of their existence, but also looking at the ethical pros and cons of their presence being back on the Earth for the first time in millions of years.
I like the way that the characters are written. Malcolm is a very sober skeptic who thinks this is just a bad idea from the word go. Grant is of a similar skepticism, but there are many questions he's had on his mind about dinosaurs for years, ranging from intelligence, behavior, and social patterns. Ellie is of a similar nature, but she does want to see more of the park.
John Hammond. The Hammond that the late Sir Richard Attenborough portrays is vastly different from the book. The novel version is what Crichton likes to describe as the dark side of Disney, and only wants to make massive profits and could really care less about his grandchildren. Whereas the movie version is very warm, loving, adores his grandchildren, and only wants to share his vision with the world. He's somewhat naive in how he believes he can control the situation of genetic power, and how he can maintain order by keeping creatures in line that have not existed since the end of the Cretaceous period.
The sign of a good writer is that everybody's in a different place by the end of the story. Hammond is a lot wiser by the end of Jurassic Park, knowing that he's opened up a Pandora's box and his dream is in ruins. Malcolm is very hardened and an even more sober skeptic and very physically beat up. But chances are, if you were forced through a door by a rampaging T-Rex, you're going to be injured as well.
For the likes of Grant and Ellie, their perception of dinosaurs are changed forever. Sure, they had questions answered, but the answers just raise more questions, and at the same time, knowing that these creatures are more powerful and dangerous than they dared imagine, leaves them looking to the bones with a lot more respect than they had before.
A character like Dennis Nedry, aside from being devoured, is pretty much in the same place as he was at the start of the movie. A greedy glutton seduced by a high lucrative payment from a rival company to InGen that want the secrets to John Hammond's work but are not prepared to do the legwork. Sounds like modern corporations in general.
The roles of Lex and Tim are the child audience's participation in the movie, as they're getting to experience the movie from their perspective. A kid sees a living, breathing dinosaur, they go crazy for it. And you know what? That's natural. Because to most kids that grew up with The Land Before Time, or even Dink, the Little Dinosaur, this was just great, getting to something way more credible and something beyond our wildest imaginations. To see the T-Rex at that young age terrified and wowed us at the same time.
Honestly, I can't think of a single person that turned in a poor performance. Not one.
Sam Neill is the best Alan Grant, Laura Dern is perfect as Ellie Settler, Jeff Goldblum is entertaining and charismatic as the charming Dr. Ian Malcolm, and Richard Attenborough, with his wonderful grandfatherly warmth, was ideally cast to play John Hammond.
Even with minor roles such as Bob Peck as the game warden Robert Muldoon, or the computer technician Ray Arnold, they were great in these roles. They made these characters feel real and engaging. White Knight made you hate the slobbish and greedy Dennis Nedry, and you didn't feel bad when karma came to bite him. Literally. Ariana Richards and Joseph Mazzello were great as Lex and Tim, respectively.
Spielberg said he wanted to cast good, honest actors and not big Hollywood celebrities, and he made the right choice, because had they been portrayed by bigger names, it would have done a great deal of disservice to the movie. But let's be honest here. Even though the human actors are great talent, the real stars of the movie are the dinosaurs themselves. From the majestic Brachiosaurus, the sympathetic Triceratops, the deceptively playful yet deadly Dilophosaurus, the cunning and intelligent Velociraptors, and the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex.
This was the movie that pushed the capabilities and limits of visual effects. One has to remember, a special effect and visual effect are not the same thing. A special effect is anything from a miniature to an explosion or anything that is operated off camera, whereas a visual effect is not done until post-production.
And when you look at the CG used for the dinosaurs 25 years later, they blend well with the practical effects. Personally, I find it more rewarding when the actors are reacting with the animatronics, as their reactions are more honest and genuine because it's something that they can reach out and touch, and not having to train their eyeline to be right to something that won't be there until after post-production.
Stan Winston really helped to give the dinosaurs credibility with the amazing animatronics. From the sick Triceratops that made it look like a real living, breathing animal with such authenticity to its skin texture and to its heavy, laboured breathing.
Same thing with the T-Rex when it's nose to nose with Lex and Alan. The sheer detail with the way its skin looked, and to the menacing look with its eyes. That's what made the dinosaurs look so real. The scarier they looked, the more convincing it looked. What can you say? It's John Williams at his best. He crafted such a masterpiece with pieces for scenes that were suspenseful, some that were chilling, and to what we all think of when a Jurassic Park score is mentioned. The iconic theme.
Spielberg chose extremely well when hiring this legendary composer to create what will be played in the same regard years later as we first heard it in 1993. It's majestic, powerful, awe-inspiring, and magical. It's Jurassic Park.
In the 25 years since the theatrical release of Jurassic Park, it has captured the imagination of the entire planet and acquired a new generation of interest in dinosaurs, looking at these animals with respect, wonder, and appreciation. Steven Spielberg, the cast, Stan Winston, and ILM gave us what many consider the most definitive dinosaur movie ever. And they're absolutely right.
The story was compelling, mixing human drama with dinosaur dangers and representing these creatures with such fluid movements and natural authenticity, and had them portrayed as animals, not movie monsters. Because dinosaurs were animals. Just very prehistoric animals.
There are some movies that hold up extremely well over time. The first Back to the Future is still feeling fresh now as it first did in 1985, Jaws when it terrified audiences back in 1975, and to E.T. in 1982.
Jurassic Park has held up incredibly well to where you can come in after not seeing it for months, years, or even a decade, and still be wowed and terrified by it. And that's the sign of a great movie, and also a movie that can last. I hold it in the same regard as that of the first Back to the Future. People saw this movie when they were kids, they show it to their kids, it just keeps on going. Because there are kids today that weren't even born when Jurassic Park was first released, and they're just as amazed at it today as we were back in the mid-90s.
The story came from a great author who in turn was turned into a movie by a director at the peak of his career in masterful filmmaking. To a lot of people, Spielberg is seen as a measuring stick, a standard, if you will, of how to do masterpieces.
And you'd need only look at the body of his work, from the Indiana Jones series to E.T., Jaws, Schindler's List, and his involvement with the Back to the Future trilogy to understand the caliber of his talent and capabilities. He was the right man for the right movie at the right time.
Jurassic Park would spawn 4 sequels over the next 25 years. Some, while good, didn't quite recapture the magic of the original, and some we don't like to talk about at all. But I feel like Jurassic World did come somewhat close. But not close enough.
If we enjoy and keep Jurassic Park as treasured as we have done since 1993, then chances are, on June 11, 2043, we will still be in awe of the majestic Brachiosaur, chilled by the Velociraptors, and be frightened and in awe by the greatest of them all, T-Rex. Jurassic Park gets a must, and rightly so. I'm MJ Knight saying good night from the night and welcoming you all back to Jurassic Park.